Missouri.
COVID keeps fans away from the Olympics. I'm Tina Kraus with Japan's new rules for the upcoming games.
And also, after more than a year of coronavirus restrictions, Italy once again welcomes travelers from the U.S.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The government deploys a COVID-19 surge team to Southwest Missouri. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes. In the past week, Missouri's COVID-19 caseload ranks in as the second highest in the country. Now the CDC is stepping in to help. According to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, the first member of the team arrived in Springfield Wednesday. The latest CDC data reveals the Show Me State gaining 15.5 new cases per 100,000 people each day. 56% of adults in Missouri have received at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose, and only 39.4% of residents are fully vaccinated. The surge team will include an epidemiologist, research assistants, a health communication specialist, contact tracers, and others who will help with vaccination and outreach. Local health departments ramp up their contact tracing as the Delta variant continues to spread through our region. In Jasper County, the health department is adding 5 more contact tracers. Health Director Tony Moore says the contact tracers they did have left after cases dropped a few months ago. The department's also adjusting to changes in contact tracing since the CDC says vaccinated people do not have to quarantine. Health workers will ask those people to monitor for symptoms and get tested if symptoms do show up.
Their onset of symptoms may be a runny nose or a sore throat or something like that, but it progresses from there. We also seem to be seeing more gastrointestinal type illness associated with this. It seems like it's a little more frequent now than what we were seeing in the past.
Moore says loss of taste and smell is a less frequent symptom now. Many local health departments can also verify if someone has been fully vaccinated. Both Missouri and Kansas keep records of who's been vaccinated, which can be assessed by local health departments. Well, hello, sunshine and more heat. Michael Hayslip joins us with a first look at the forecast.
And unfortunately, Tanya, before we get a break from that, we're going to watch the mercury continue to steadily rise. Now, kind of a flip of what we had earlier this morning, where outside of Television City it was clear as a bell and Joplin had cloud cover. Well, now we're seeing a little bit develop here at the mothership, but it doesn't slow us down as we're going to be void of any rain today. What we will pay attention to is anything that works out of east central Oklahoma and west central Arkansas. It won't make it this far north. We are picking up some actual legitimate cloud cover from Nevada, tracking up to the northwest through central Missouri, northeast through central Missouri right there. But that's part of a big low pressure system that really, once again, won't have any effect on us. Pushing up into the 80s already. Let's roll 81 in Joplin. 84 is our warm spot so far in Parsons. Still waiting on Monette and Lamar to get theirs there in the high 70s. And Miami, very comfortable. 83. Let's kind of break down the jet stream right here, because what it's doing, everything that's going to be underneath this is going to have extremely warm temperatures. So it would be nice if maybe it took a little dip, and it will. We're just going to have to wait until the weekend. We'll get to what's going on here nationally in just a little bit, but I do want to check on Tropical Storm Elsa. Still a tropical storm, and it has crossed the state line now in North Carolina, and it's picked up pace, moving at 20 miles per hour. Back here in the 4 states, highs in the, say high 80s. Thing is, it's getting humid. Look at the bottom line of the old afternoon planner. Humidity increasing for Friday. So what is that going to do? Not bring us any rain, not yet. Just going to make it feel about like, say 95, 96 tomorrow afternoon. Next shot for some rain is going to be Saturday. That's got a cold front on the backside of it. So Tanya, if we can get through these next 3 days, which are actually pretty seasonable July temperatures for where we should be here, 8, 9, 10 days into the month, just haven't had to put up with this in a while since really the middle of June.
Yeah, well, I guess we were due. And we're going to be due for rain this weekend.
You know what we should do? Why don't we come back and compare and contrast that first 2 weeks of June compared to where we are now?
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, the search for survivors from the condo collapse is officially over. Yesterday evening, the search was paused to hold a moment of silence for those who remain lost. Rescue workers who have been laboring nonstop for 2 weeks lined up to pay their respects. 60 bodies have been recovered. Up to 80 people are still missing. Japan declares a state of emergency for this month's Olympic Games in Tokyo as cases of COVID keep climbing. And now there is a no fans ban in place. CBS's Tina Kraus has the latest.
Olympic athletes from around the world are converging on Tokyo, and the Delta variant is outrunning organizers' plans to keep the games on track. With a rapid rise of COVID infections in the capital, Japan's prime minister is putting Tokyo in a state of emergency throughout the games. He said the 6-week lockdown was crucial to stopping the spread of the virus. The restrictions mean no fans allowed. Sports psychologists say that could hurt the athletes.
For most top performers, it'll feel strange, and it may actually make them a bit concerned that they may not deliver their best performances.
A COVID surge already forced the Olympic torch relay to detour away from the capital. Runners have ferried the flame on boats and trains on its journey toward Tokyo for the July 23rd opening ceremony. But more than 80% of the Japanese public don't want the games to go ahead. This woman even used a water gun to try to put out the flame, shouting, "Stop the Olympics," before police arrested her. Many residents are angry they're being ordered to stay home as the world's biggest sporting event unfolds around them. It's the 4th time Japan has declared a state of emergency since the pandemic began. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Olympic organizers say they expect more than 80% of athletes will be vaccinated before the Olympics kick off 2 weeks from tomorrow. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, for the first time since the outbreak, direct flights from the U.S. to Italy return to the friendly skies. We take you to Venice, where tourists are adding up by the minute. And later, we're making a darn good corn salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. The pandemic was a double whammy to Italy's tourism industry. First, it was a national lockdown, and then it was a ban on Americans, the biggest spenders in Venice. Chris Livesay takes us to the city of canals to see how it's coming back to life.
A paradise on water that the pandemic turned into a desert. But now, direct flights from the U.S. to Venice are finally landing again. Tabitha Waters and her family from Kentucky were among the first on board.
What's the pandemic been like for you?
I've lost a couple of family members to it, and my brother and a good friend, and I'm a nurse, so it's just been a really bad thing to get used to. And seeing the world finally start to become normal again is really good.
The feeling is mutual at Caffè Florian, Italy's oldest coffee house, once on the brink of bankruptcy during the pandemic. Now, Americans like the Waters family are helping bring it back to life.
My heart literally has not stopped beating fast.
Like Venice's newly reopened La Fenice Opera House, named after the mythical Phoenix, the city is rising from the ashes. Jane DeMasto is an environmental scientist.
And there's a lot of potential to make life in the city a whole lot better, not just for us, but for nature and other organisms.
Nature that filled the void, ducks, octopuses, even dolphins in the Grand Canal.
But with restrictions now loosened, those days are over, with tourists adding up by the minute. And with such irresistible beauty, can you really blame them?
Lorenza Lain of the Venice Hoteliers Association says the solution is clear. Charge an entrance fee to the city.
Venice is not Disneyland, it's a living city, but as sites, other sites in the world, you pay to get in, and let's limit the daily people.
Limit cruise ships as well, she says. They not only dwarf the city, they're known to crash into it. Just one of the challenges to striking a post-COVID balance for both locals and visitors alike. Chris Livesay, Venice.
Someday I'll get there. Well, still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
There's nothing better than sweet corn slathered with butter. Or is there? The sweet corn salad we're making today may have just what it takes to win you over.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
After what was an overcast sunrise at 7th and Joplin, it has developed into a gorgeous looking Thursday, and we're going to continue the trend into the afternoon. We're also going to harp about some incoming heat. But here's the interesting thing about when we talk about the heat and whatnot. Down there at the bottom, I put the average presumed high through July 10. So what we did is we took the two highest numbers on the 7-day forecast there, plugged them in, and that's going to be about 87.7 degrees. Now, let's put that into perspective. The entire month of June as a whole, our average high was 87. Our average high for July 8th should be 90. So even though we're talking a whole lot about the heat, honestly, it hasn't been too bad of a July whatsoever. A little bit of cloud cover developed up in Vernon County, stretching just to the northeast through central Missouri. And speaking of Vernon County, that is still where we have our flood warning for the Osage River just by Shell City. Actually kind of moved just to the west of Vernon right there. But what we're looking at is the gauge at Taborville for the Osage. It is still about 4.5 feet above flood stage, and that is actually why that thing was extended. It was supposed to expire on Friday. Now look at that. It moves all the way until Saturday morning. Let's return to 7th and Rangeline in Joplin, where we sit at a very comfortable 81 degrees. The clouds are actually going to break up because of that bottom line right there. You see the barometer? It is on the rise. Wind arrows have been kind of curious today. Now it's a light breeze. We're talking about 5 miles an hour. But look at how they come in from the north and then make a split right when they get down to the bottom of the screen. That's actually taken a little bit of the edge off of the heat, the fact that it does come in from the north. Because nationally, yeah, like I said, you got to get above that jet stream, and there's not a whole lot of people above that jet stream to actually get some mild July temperatures. Let's go ahead and talk about Tropical Storm Elsa, still a tropical storm. It has now made its way to the northeast over the South Carolina, North Carolina state line. And as we drop down on her, we see Raleigh right next in line. It just now is moving with Charlotte on one side, Wilmington on the other. Raleigh is going to be right in the middle of this thing. And then as we factor it out and look at the long range forecast of it, remaining a tropical storm. This is pretty amazing that we don't see it becoming a low pressure remnant of a storm, a tropical depression, if you will, until it gets up to New England. So that's why you've got those millions of people along the East Coast. They're currently in the midst of flood warnings. Also flooding concerns because of another tropical system. We'll go ahead and remove the radar, check out the infrared satellite on this, and you'll notice that southern Texas just absolutely getting pummeled. There's even a chance this develops into a tropical storm by the time we get to the weekend. And we're not going to see it in the next 48 hours, but that's one thing we'll look at too, just from the national perspective tropically. So you got the mid-Atlantic, you got the deep south, and then look at the top of your screen. Up by the Canadian border on the severe thunderstorm risk map is where we find the high category. How lucky are we that we've carved that slice out right through the 4 states, and all of a sudden the heat, well, it doesn't seem too bad. Highs around 87 today. Now overnight, one thing you're going to notice tomorrow when you wake up, not only is it going to be warm, but it's going to begin to get a little muggy because we got a whole lot of Gulf moisture that is already beginning to work its way in. That's what formulates the rain, but it stays down to the south for us today. But tomorrow, it just keeps on getting more humid, more muggy, to the point where today you're going to feel about like 91, 92 during the afternoon. Tomorrow, going to feel about like 96, 97.
Yeah, it's going to
So
be
the
hot.
Gulf moisture remains, sticks around for Saturday. We get that afternoon instability, 3 consecutive pretty warm, if not hot days. And that's what causes the skies to open up and bring us thunderstorms there for Saturday afternoon all the way into Sunday.
All right, well, doesn't sound like a very good weekend to go to the lake. That's
Everybody
for sure.
take care of the heat for tomorrow, and the Weather Center will concentrate on perhaps localized flooding by Sunday.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Private Amos Bush in the U.S. Army. The Pittsburgh, Kansas native joined the 89th Division 354th Company in 1917. Private Bush fought in both eastern France and in western Germany. To Private Amos Bush, we thank you, our 4-state hero. Today we're making a dish that utilizes in-season, super affordable, and fresh ingredients. Howard shows us how to make his darn good corn salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
If I had to name a best produce buy of the season, I'd probably have a pretty tough time. I mean, between the colorful bell peppers, juicy homegrown tomatoes, and fresh corn on the cob, I'd have to declare it a tie, especially since all three of them are at rock bottom prices. So what do you say we whip up an easy salad that combines all of these into a summertime favorite? We start off by boiling some corn on the cob just until it's tender. Then we take it out of the pot and let it cool. Next, we chunk up a few tomatoes, a green pepper, and a couple of scallions. You want to make sure the tomatoes are ripe, yet still on the firm side. Now we cut the kernels off the cob with a corn stripper, or you could use a chef knife. Then we toss everything together along with a lemony vinaigrette. It's what makes this salad come to life. See, told you it was easy. And since peppers, corn, and tomatoes are all so abundant this time of year, you can make a boatload for next to nothing. It's so good you're going to want to. To get the recipe for what we call our darn good corn salad, which of course includes the recipe for the lemon dressing, all you have to do is visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a summer fresh way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Well, you can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
Now, I know we've been talking a whole lot about the heat, but remember, average high should be about 90 right now, so we're really not that far off. Even though tomorrow is going to be our hottest day of the work, we can feel about like 96. And hang in there, because those thunderstorms coming on Saturday usher in a cold front that drop us down to the low 80s for back-to-back days on Sunday and Monday.
Sounds pretty
What
good.
about that? That'll be nice. A little cool down. What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, the pandemic transformed a lot of things, including the world of dating. Some of those changes are sticking around even as those looking for love come out of lockdown. We're going to look at the future of virtual dating. Plus, the New York Times identifies Crawford and Cherokee counties as 2 of the state's most dangerous places to be unvaccinated as the Delta variant spreads. We're going to speak with local health officials about the number of cases. And Crossland Construction buys an education center in Pittsburgh. Hope you join us for those stories. A lot more, of course. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right. Thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.